right, guys, in this tutorial, Photoshop tutorial, we're going to use text effects. We're going to learn how to create a fire text effect, engulfing our letters in burning hot flames. We'll be using Photoshop's powerful Liquify filter, which is new, which is pretty awesome, a lot of fun to use for the most of the work on the flames themselves. But we'll also be looking back, uh, taking a look at the wind filter, and then also using adjustment layers, which is really a repetitive thing. And a lot of effects are the adjustment layers, okay, to colorize the flames. We're going to use layer styles for adding color to our text, and then also a layer mask for blending the flames with the letters and things like that. So we're going to continue using layer styles, adjustment layers, and things like that to create these effects in Photoshop. You can kind of see how they all work together. All right, so to create a new blank Photoshop document, we're going to begin by creating a new blank Photoshop document. Go up to the File menu, or you can just hit Create New right here. Um, uh, we're going to enter the dimensions we need for our effect. For this tutorial, we're going to enter 3 inches for my width and 3 inches for my height. So make sure you select inches first, and it's going to be 3 inches by 3 inches. Okay. And the resolution, we want it to be 300 resolution. Okay. Um, when I'm done, just hit OK, create. Okay. And we'll have our blank document. Next, we're going to fill it with black. So edit fill. And we're just going to go to the contents and we're going to hit black. We've done this many times before. We have our black document right there. All right. Um, Now, with a solid blank document, we're going to need some text to work with. For that, we'll need Photoshop's type tool. We're going to use the text tool right here, which is the T. And we're going to go ahead and select it. We're going to go to the top of the options bar where you can change the font, the style, the size. We're going to use Times New Roman. So you can actually type it in there. Times, here it is, New Roman Regular. Okay. Um, Well, actually, we can just select bold, and it selects bold for us. So we'll check the bold one, okay, and make sure it's 30 point. We don't have to worry about the text really for now. Um, we're going to set our text color to white, okay. We'll use white as our initial text color, even though we'll be adding more colors later on. To quickly set your text color to white, press the letter D on your keyboard, okay, which resets Photoshop's foreground and background color um, to their defaults, making your foreground color black. And okay, so we're going to make sure that we're here. So we can just actually, excuse me, just actually click on these right here. And it selects it back to the default, clicking those two little things. The text color and the foreground color are the one and the same in Photoshop. Changing one also changes the other, which means that in order to change our text color to white, all we need to do is change the foreground color to white. At the moment, our background color is set to white. Okay, so we're going to switch it around. So background color is set to white. Okay. Um, Now we're going to add our text. It's in white. Click right here. Oh, and I'm just going to add fire, F-I-R-E. Okay. There we go. All right. With the type tool selected, use the font. You've already selected the font. You've got the text set to white. Click inside the document, add your text. And I'm going to type the word fire. You can type whatever you want and make sure it's all in capital letters. Then we're going to hit our check. Okay. We're going to resize it. Okay. Um, okay. You can actually hold down excuse me. You can actually hold down your shift key. Click it, hold down your shift key to keep it in proportion. You can hold the control. There we go. We're going to make it nice. So it takes up the document right there. All right. Next thing we're going to do that's really important is we're going to rasterize the text. We can't do anything because text is obviously in a vector. So we're going to need to rasterize that text before we can do anything more. Okay. Make sure you have everything spelled correctly before you proceed, since the text will no longer be editable. And once we've rasterized it, to convert the text into pixels, go into the layer menu at the top of the screen and choose rasterize. So you can go to up to layer, and you can hit rasterize, which is right here, type, or you can right click the layer, remember, and hit rasterize. And you can see that the thumbnail has changed to a rasterized thumbnail. Okay, it's no longer a text thumbnail. All right. Now to create the flames effect, we'll need to work on a copy of our text layer, which means we need to duplicate the layer. The easiest way to duplicate a layer in Photoshop is with the keyboard shortcut. First, make sure you have the text layer selected, and then you hit Control J. Remember, guys, we hit Control J, and that duplicates that layer, and you'll see it says Fire Copy. Okay. Duplicated the text layer. We're actually going to create the main fire effect on the original text layer, saving the copy for later. In fact, we don't even need to see the copy for the moment. So click on the small eyeball icon to hide it. So we're going to hide that copy layer, right? On the far left of the layers palette. The eyeball will disappear from the layers palette, and the layer itself will disappear in the document. So it's still there, but you're hiding it. We all know how to do that. All right, so we're going to select that original text layer, okay? We're going to begin creating the fire text itself, okay? So the first thing we're going to do to create the flames for our fire text effect, we'll be using a few of Photoshop's filters. The first one we'll be using is the wind filter, okay? Only works from left to right, okay? The wind filter works from left to right. So we want the fire to be going up. What do we need to do? We need to rotate this image, okay? Rotate the text. So all we got to do is go to image, and the menu bar, hit image, and choose rotate canvas. So we're going to go to image rotation, or excuse me. So hold on. Go to image, rotation, and we're going to choose 90 degrees clockwise. Oop. There we go. So we rotated it so that fire is facing up and down. Okay. And now we're going to apply the wind filter. All right. When we're ready to apply the wind filter, go up to the filter menu at the top of the screen and choose stylize. So we're going to go to filter. Oh, hold on 1 second. I got it. Okay. We're going to go up to filter. We're going to go to stylize. And we're going to select wind. All right. Now, this brings up the wind filter dialog box, which consists of a preview area in the top left and a few options below it. The options are divided into two sections, method and direction. Make sure that wind is selected for the method. Then down at the bottom, select direction from left to right. So make sure we select wind and from the left. Okay. You can actually move this so we can see it. All right. Once you're done, you click OK and apply the wind filter. They're a little hard to make out in the screenshot, but you'll see small streaks appearing from the letters extending out towards the fire. Okay. So we're going to hit OK. And you'll see a little bit, okay, a couple little streaks. The streaks are too small and subtle after applying the wind filter once. So let's reapply it a couple times. To click and reapply the last filter you used, simply press Control F in Windows and Command F in Mac. Each time you press the keyboard shortcut, you'll apply the filter again. I'm going to press the keyboard shortcut twice to apply the wind filter 2 more times to the text. This makes the streaks much longer. So Control F in shoot. Maybe open this one. Oop. So we're just going to go filter. So I'm just going to hit push those layers together. And you can also hit filter, stylize, wind, make sure it's from the left. And there we go. And now you can see. So you just want to add it a couple more times. The shortcut, keyboard, I guess, doesn't work on this one. All right, once we're done with the filter, let's rotate our image back to the way it was originally. Go back to the image menu and rotate the canvas once again. This time choose counterclockwise. So we're going to go to image, rotate canvas, counterclockwise, and fire goes back to normal. Okay. Next, we need to soften the streaks up a little bit by applying a small amount of blurring to them. For that, we'll use the Photoshop Gaussian Blur filter. Go up to the filter menu. Okay. At the top of the screen, choose blur and then choose Gaussian blur. So we're going to choose blur, then Gaussian blur. All right. This brings up the Gaussian blur dialog box. All we want to do is add a small amount of blurring. So I'm going to enter a radius value of about 1.2 pixels down at the bottom. So 1.2 pixels, and you hit OK, and it's just blurred it a little bit. Just give it a little softer look to it. Once you're done, exit out of the dialog box, and Photoshop applies the blurring effect. Your streaks should now have a softer look, and they do. They have a much softer look. All right. Okay. Click on the background layer in the layers palette, layers panel to select it. Then use the same keyboard shortcut we used earlier, Control J or Command J, to duplicate the background layer. You'll see a copy of the background layer named background copy appear. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate that background layer, Control J or Command J. Okay. Merge the text layer with the background copy layer. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and take this right here and we're going to merge down. We're going to right click and merge down. We want to merge this one we don't even need yet, but we're merging down the background copy with that background layer. Okay. We're going to rename that merge layer Flames. So we're going to name this one Flames. Flames. And this is the layer we're going to be making the fire on. Okay. Okay. In a moment, we're going to bring our image into Photoshop's Liquify filter, a very powerful and fun filter used for warping and twisting pixels. Unfortunately, its power comes at a price. Depending on the size and complexity of your image you're working on, the Liquify filter can on occasion slow your computer down to a crawl, especially if you're working on an older system. In our case here, we're not working on anything terribly complex, so we shouldn't run into any problems. But one way to limit how much work Photoshop has to do is to limit how much of the image actually opens inside the Liquify filter. So how do we do that? We'll simply drag a selection around the area we want to work with. First, we'll need the rectangular marquee tool. So either select it from the tools palette, and then we're going to draw. We're going to use this. So we're going to be limiting how much we put into the Liquify. We're just going to draw a rectangle around the word, okay? All right, so that's what it should look like. Should have that rectangle marquee up there. With the area that we want to work with selected, go up to the filter menu at the top of the screen and choose Liquify. So we're going to go up to filter and we're going to click on Liquify. And it's going to open up a completely separate screen, okay? This brings up Photoshop's massive Liquify filter dialog box, which consists of some tools along the left, a very large preview area in the center, and a lot of potentially confusing options to the right. If you've never used a Liquify filter before, there's no need to panic. For this effect, all we need to here is one tool, one option, and the preview area. Everything else we can safely ignore. First, select the forward warp tool, which is the little finger right here, which we've already have selected, okay? We're going to shrink our brush a little bit, okay? Next, over to the right, on the right side of the dialog box, you'll see a section called Tool Options right here, okay? And the very first option in this section is brush size. All right, so there's the brush size, okay? This is where we can change the size of the brush we're using, and it's the only option we need for this effect. Start with a medium-sized brush. The default brush size is 100. So we're going to use a medium-sized brush, which we kind of already have, okay? The first thing that we'll do is give our white streaks more of a wavy, or white streaks more of a wispy, wavy look to them. Click inside the streaks at different spots and drag your mouse a short distance, either left or right, to gently warp the streaks and give them some subtle and random curves. Just click, drag a short distance and release your mouse, and then click and drag again in a different area. Try not to click inside the letters themselves for now. Just warp and wiggle the streaks. Don't forget to include the streaks in the middle and the bottom sections of the letters. When you're done, you should end up with something similar to what I have in the screen and on what you see on the screen. So go ahead and just click. Just give it. You can see how it's. Don't forget to do in the inside here. You can also make your brush smaller. Just try to go all over the letters like that. Give it a little wavy look, more realistic look to it. All right. So go back over to the brush size option on the right of the dialog box and choose a much smaller brush size. I'm going to set mine to about 15. So we're going to go to 15 for the brush size. There we go. Really small. Okay. This time, click directly inside the letters and drag your mouse upward to create the shapes of little flames shooting out from the vein. So we're going to now go to the letters, like some of the letters are some of the letters are shooting out like this. Finally, let's create some larger flames. Go back over to the brush size option and choose a large brush size. I'm going to set mine to 50. So go ahead to the brush size and hit it 50. Okay. Once again, click directly inside the letters and drag them upward. This time, create a larger flames, just as we did with the smaller flames. Try to add some variety by dragging upward and different angles and wiggling your brush behind, twisting the shapes. Again, don't forget about the bottom. Okay. So now we're going to do bigger flames. All right. So far, so good. Click OK to exit out of the Liquify filter when you're done. There may be a brief pause while Photoshop applies the effect in the document, but when it's done, your text should be engulfed in a blaze of unrealistically white fire. We'll add some much needed color to our flames next. Okay, so we're going to hit OK, and there you go. It didn't take long. All right. Let's add some color to our flames. For that, we'll use a hue saturation adjustment layer. Click on the new adjustment layer, which is at the bottom here. Remember those adjustment layers? And select hue saturation. Go to hue saturation. Perfect. All right. This brings up the hue saturation dialog box. First, select the colorize option at the bottom right corner of the dialog box. So right here, colorize. Boop. There we go. Then in the center of the dialog box, set the hue value to around 40 for a warm yellow-orange color. Then crank the saturation value all the way to 100. So we're going to hit the hue to 40. And then we're going to do the saturation up to 100. There we go. Perfect. Now, click OK to get out of the hue saturation dialog box. So we're good and we don't need to. We can just hide that now. There we go. All right. But we're not quite done yet. We're going to add a second hue saturation adjustment layer. Okay. We'll add just one more color to the flame using a second hue saturation adjustment layer. Click once again on the new adjustment layer. Okay. Hue and saturation. So you'll see another one is going to be added. All right. This time, don't select colorize option. Just set the hue value to around -15 for a deeper orange color. So we're going to go to here. We're going to go -15. Okay. Click OK when you're done. So we don't have to click OK. We're just out of there. Okay. Go to the blend modes at the top left corner of the layers palette, the panel, excuse me. It's the drop down box to default that says normal, and change the blend mode for the second hue saturation adjustment layer to overlay. So we're going to go ahead and click on this and make sure it says overlay. There we go. All right. So far, so good. All right. Click that overlay and you'll see that the text will change. This adds more realistic color combination to our flames. Okay. With the lighter areas keeping the bright yellowish orange color from the first hue saturation adjustment layer, and the darker areas now appearing with a deeper, richer shade of orange. Okay. Next, we're going to select and turn on the text copy layer right here. All right. That fills out all those areas that we kind of messed up, right? Um, at this point, we're done with our flames. We'll finish off our effect by working on the text copy layer that we created way back at the beginning of the tutorial. But we can work on it through. We'll need to turn it back on since it's currently hidden from the view. First, click on the text layer and then select the little layer visibility or the little eyeball and make sure you can see it, okay? Next, we're going to add a gradient overlay. Okay, let's add some color to our text. With the text copy layer now selected and visible, click on the View Layer Styles on the Layer Styles icon at the bottom of the Layers palette and choose Gradient Overlay. So we're going to go to FX now with our Fire Copy F, and we're going to go to Gradient Overlay. Okay. This will bring up Photoshop's Layer Style dialog box set to the Gradient Overlay options in the middle column. Click on the Gradient Preview area, which is right here. All right. This brings up Photoshop's gradient editor, which is right there in front of you. In the bottom half of the gradient editor is where we can create our own custom gradient. You'll see a thin horizontal bar showing a preview of the current gradient colors. Okay. With a small color stop directly below it on each end. Let's change the color on the left of the gradient. Okay. So click on the color stop at the on the left to select it, then click on the color swatch. So we're going to go ahead and click on this guy right here on the bottom. We're going to click on there, and we have our color picker. Okay, this brings up Photoshop's color picker. Choose a dark orange brown color. So we're going to go ahead, dark orange brown, like that right there. Perfect. And we're going to hit OK. Okay. Next, back in the gradient editor, we're going to select the other one, and we're going to right here, and we're going to select a lighter orange. So Select a lighter orange for that one. So right up here, hit OK. Now we can see, at this point, the only dialog box open on your screen should be the layer style dialog box. You'll see that the gradient previewer is now showing the new colors we selected. Make sure the style option is set to linear. Style option is linear, which is, on the thing. So we selected this. Let's make this one. I think I'm going to make this one darker. There we go. That's better. Okay, there we go. Make it a little darker. Oop. Just want to make this darker. There we go. There we go. All right. So I'm going to hit OK. So the only thing that should be open here is this guy right here. So make sure it's linear, right? Make sure that it's set to linear. Okay. Align with the layer, right? Okay. And then this is at 90. Perfect. Click OK when you're done to exit out of the layer style dialog stall box. Our custom gradient is now applied to our text. And we hit OK. And now you can see our custom gradient is now applied to that text. Okay. Okay. Next, we're going to add a layer mask to the text layer. At this moment, it looks like our text and flames are two separate things, which of course they are. But it looks like the text is sitting in front of our document and the flames are burning away behind it. Okay, which is true. That's fine if that's the effect you want. But what I want is for it to look more like the letters themselves are on fire, which means we need a way to blend the text and the flames together. The reason it looks like the text and the flames are separate is because we can clearly make out the sharp edges of the letters in front of the flames. Let's finish things off by removing some of those sharp edges, and we'll start using that with a layer mask. So we're going to add a layer mask to that fire copy text right there. All right. This adds a layer mask to the text layer. We can see it in the document itself, but if we look in the layers palette, we can see that a layer mask thumbnail has appeared on the text layer, and you can see it right there. Okay. We're going to select the brush tool, okay, and the tools palette, and quickly select it by, you can use the letter B if you want, which selects the brush tool, or you can just click on it right there. All right. So there I have my brush tool. To remove some of those sharp edges from the text, we'll need to paint over them on the layer mask with black, which means that we need to set our foreground color. So we're just going to go ahead and switch the foreground color right here on the bottom. We know how to do that. Okay. We're going to paint away some of those with the layer mask and the brush tool selected and black as our foreground color. Use a small soft edge brush to paint away some of the sharp edges of the letters, especially along the tops, but also in different areas along the bottom and in the middle. The easiest way to resize your brush is with the left and right bracket keys. Remember how we did that. So now we're going to shrink our brush a little bit. We can even kind of zoom in a little, and we're going to shrink the brush. With black, we're just going to go ahead and, that's a lot. Oops, excuse me. Edit, new brush tool. Make sure it's super soft. It is. We're just going to, I'm going to make it a little bigger. Get some of those edges off. Remember, you can switch it. So we're going to do, if you don't like, if it's too much, just a little bit like this. So it adds to that. I don't like what I've done. So I'm going to go ahead and go make a smaller brush. We're just going to paint on those areas so it kind of gets rid of some of those hard. All right, so now it looks like the flames are actually on those words there. Okay. All right. Now, if you notice the same problem I'm seeing, where the very bottom of the text appears to be slightly higher than the flames, creating an orange outline around the bottom of the letters, simply press the V on your keyboard to quickly select the move tool. So we're going to use the V, all right? Then press it down on the arrow key, and then you can see gets rid of that line there. There we go. And we've gotten rid of that. Um, we got rid of that line on the bottom. Now, don't worry if you see some other parts right here, you can just switch to the white paintbrush and we can paint back over certain parts of the layer if you want. Okay, it doesn't have to be right over here, maybe a little bit. I actually want to move there we go. And don't be afraid to play with it, but that is how we do our fire text in Photoshop. Um, with using the layer style, some adjustment layers, and then that cool liquify text or liquify tool, liquify mode, I guess you could call it, was how we created those wavy flames. So go ahead and save it as your fire text and turn it in.